This is a special meeting of the Township Committee for Monday, March 17, 2013. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Two River Times, and by posting in the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk on March 10, 2014. Committeeman Fiore?
Here.
Committeeman Massell?
Here.
Committeeman Scharnberger?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino?
Here.
And Mayor Murray? Here. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our freedoms and way of life. Thank you. And at this time, I believe we're going to have the budget presentation first, before the
Everybody, this is our CFO, Colleen Lapp.
Thank you. This evening, I just want to present a summary of the budget that's being proposed for introduction this evening. I prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation to illustrate some of the a summary of the budget and some of the more important facts about this budget. I'll begin with...
Excuse me, Colleen, should we shut the lights down maybe so you can see the PowerPoint? Is that... Some of the numbers get washed out, I think, if it's too bright in here.
Okay, let's... Ted, we need a little bit more lighting.
I'll get it.
Should have come back on.
The other one. Keep it back on.
Yeah, but she went front, not back.
This building was quite well. 60.
Which is which? We're going to recommend beginning. It takes a while to restart these lights once you turn them off.
Interesting.
Okay. We want to go with these lights on?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll start with a summary of the revenues and appropriations. This year, we're anticipating using a little bit more surplus than we did in the 2013 budget. One of the reasons that you use surplus is to offset one-time expenses. In this year's budget, we have some one-time expenses such as snow costs that were not pushed through tax increase. We have some retro pension bills, and we have some grants that require matching funds that we don't anticipate having to have in a budget as an ongoing basis. The local revenue is about the same as it was last year. Category labeled state aid is the same as it's been since 2010. I like to make a point that that is not technically state aid, although that's how it's categorized in the budget. That's really our energy tax receipts, which is a tax that is due to the township as it is every municipality in the state. And although that's remained flat for some years, and at one point it was also decreased, it should have been a revenue that has increased over the years. And if we take just 2014 alone, that revenue should be somewhere around $11 million. So obviously, if we had received what is really due to the township, it would change the whole face of this budget and how we do things and services that we're able to deliver. The other revenues are fairly stable from last year. The large one at the bottom is other special revenues, and that's kind of a catch-all category, but one big number that is in there is the anticipated FEMA reimbursement for the Sandy special emergency that we'll still be paying for another 4 years. On the appropriations side, these numbers are broken down a little bit differently than they are in the budget. It comes out to the same total. And we'll get more into that. I have a couple of other charts and pages that will demonstrate further the drivers and the appropriations and where the money is laid out within the budget. But again, a big number on that side are the items called total deferred charges. And I like to point out again, that would be your other side of the budget for what we're paying down. The majority of that is the Sandy emergency. This chart breaks down the budget even further into different operational categories. The largest piece of this pie, as it has been, is salary and wage. But I do want to point out that although most of the categories from 2013 to the 2014 introduced budget have stayed pretty much flat, they're all, they change by little bits. The percentage that's going to salary and wage is down from 37% last year to a little under 35% of the budget this year. So it's just showing that there's a little shift going the other way, taking away from salary and wage and putting into other categories of the budget. The other large pieces are easy to point out. I'll say some of them because I know it's difficult for some people to see this, is insurance, general operating expenditures, and the debt service are other three of the larger categories. The next chart is the breakdown of the tax dollar, and this is based on the 2013 tax levies for each entity that is a taxing entity within our municipality. The largest portion, the green portion, is for the school board, that's the Board of Education levy. That's 62%. So for every dollar that's paid in taxes, 62 cents goes to the school board. The next is the municipal portion, which is 21%. The next largest portion is the county. So between those three, that makes up the majority of the tax dollar. But again, more than half of it goes to pay for these school tax levies. Some of the cost drivers in this budget were healthcare costs. That increase was $550,000 for a total cost of $8,947,000. The other thing that I think needs to be pointed out with healthcare is that each year the employee contributions are also increasing. So this increase is net of those employee contributions. They're up, I believe, about 30% over last year, about $130,000. So that's how much less the increase is on the overall budget, being that we're getting increased contributions each year. The snow costs are the ones that we've talked about very frequently during this whole budget process. We're still at just over $1,100,000 increase over last year's budget, for a total of $1,478,000 for the snow and weather events that we had this year. The pensions are up. This is a total of all the pensions, $371,000 for a total of $4,348,000. A large piece of that increase is for retrogression bills that were issued by the state that we were not aware were going to be coming. The state had not communicated that these would be coming, and it did not just happen to Middletown. This is something that's been happening in other towns as well. But we have to raise the money to pay those bills. And then the other large increase I wanted to point out, because it comes into play in another part of the budget, is the tax assessment department, their other expense budget. Here in Monmouth County, we're in a pilot assessment program. They've changed the assessment schedule when we get our certified values, when appeals are filed, when appeals are heard. And we also have to have 20% of the town inspected each year, and that will then allow us to adjust the values within the town so that we can hopefully not have to do an overall revaluation. But that inspection comes at a great cost to a town the size of Middletown. And as you can see, most of that $136,000 increase is part of this assessment program. I did a little comparison of changes in property tax between 2013 and 2014. The first one is on the total net value assessed. However, this again relates back to the Monmouth County pilot, in that this is just an estimated value as of January 2014. Our values have not yet been certified, and they won't until the tax appeal process is completed. And the target date for getting us a value for 2014 is sometime in May. The upside of this is that when judgments are given and assessed values are adjusted, this will be prior to tax rates being struck, so that instead of having to strike rates on each levy and then have to refund money, this will already be built into that rate so that we won't have to do the refunds. And on a municipal level, that benefits us in that we're not refunding 100% of the tax dollar, that we only get to keep 21% of. So this will benefit us in that way. The total budget this year increased by $2,264,000, or 3.33%. The municipal levy is increasing by $1,398,000, or 2.88%. The difference between those numbers has to do with revenues, where we're using more revenues, as I've stated, something like surplus offsets what we have to raise in taxes to support the increased municipal appropriations. The proposed tax rate on here is really just an example, and again, it's an estimate, because without having the assessed values, you can't come up with a true projected tax rate. And it's the same thing with the annual homeowner, what the impact would be to them. We're estimating what that annual cost will be, but that could change depending on what the final assessed values come in at. The one thing that I thought was of interest is that if you look at the assessed value of the average home from 2013 to what it was in January 2014, they're very similar, where in years past, they've been declining. So it shows that our values are starting to hold and starting to stabilize, which is a good thing. Again, the per month is based on the estimate, and these obviously, before we adopt, will be able to be firmed up and confirmed by the assessed value that we're given. The notes on the bottom just again explain about the pilot program. The next slide is just showing us, because of the unusual amount of snow and the increase that we had to do in those appropriations, this shows us what our appropriations are right now, but what they may have looked like if we did not have to include over $1.1 million in extra appropriations for those costs. So this is the appropriations as they stand now. Had we not had the additional snow costs, our increase would have been a little bit over 1.2 million or 1.8% over 2013. Same thing with the levy. Right now we stand at an increase of 1.398 or 2.88%. Without the additional snow costs, it may have been as low as $350,000. However, in reality, if we were that low, there may have been things within this budget that we decided not to do this year that could have been considered, but to keep things, to make the impact as low as possible on the residents, we made some decisions not to do those things. This is a chart that shows how your municipal tax rates have been since 2009. And 2012, your increase was at the lowest of 1.97%. Last year, almost flat. This year, up a little bit, again, due to the snow costs, which I illustrate on this next slide. That once again, had we not had the snow costs, we could have probably considered, to at least be flat or to have come down somewhat without those costs. With any budget, we're always, even though this is introduction and we all know about amendments and, things may change between now and adoption, but even beyond that, the budget's still always in motion and we're always thinking of ways, how can we save money, how can we have the least amount of impact on the citizens without impacting the services. So some of the things that we do is always a continuous evaluation and implementation of efficiency measures. And that basically means that, when we go to conferences, it's certainly to listen to the person who's speaking, but it's also to speak with our colleagues, find out, what's new, what's innovative, what has someone thought of, what could we possibly do to continue to provide services, yet keep the cost as low as possible. We definitely heavily scrutinize all departmental budget requests. The departmental budget requests are a very small portion of the budget, but it is what we have direct control over. So we get the requests, we meet with department heads, we make some cuts, we do some more things, we make more cuts, we just keep going round and round until we feel that we're being both fair as far as being, having the budget, the offices be able to operate and do the services that they're supposed to, but at the same time, how can we do it with as low cost as possible? We have continued to look at energy savings. We're part of the New Jersey SEM, which bids our electric and gas each year. We do things such as HVAC updates to try and keep our costs low. And one of the things that is a little bit lower this year are our utility costs, and that's a direct result of things such as that and efficiencies of lighting and other things. The other new thing is that we have expansion of use of natural gas vehicles and equipment. That's been something that we started on, and it's going to get easier as New Jersey Natural Gas is going to be putting in a natural gas filling station on our public works property. So that obviously will lend itself to being able to more readily use vehicles and equipment that use that source of energy. And the last thing that we do is we always look at the user and service fees. If there's a service that we offer that can be directly assessed to someone who's using that, we try and make it self-sufficient, such as the recreation program. We do that with the increased minimum wage that we pay out more in some of our programs. So we look at that in conjunction with the fees and say, what do we need to do to make sure that we can try and cover those costs? And we look at that in all areas and say, is there anything we need to look at so that we don't pass the burden of a specific service onto the general tax base of the economy. And that is all I have for you.
Thank you.
Tony, can we ask any questions of Colleen at this point, or is this so? Colleen, first of all, thank you. Great presentation and great job preparing the budget in your first budget this year in the township. Just so I have my figures right, you mentioned energy receipt tax revenue. I believe the number you said, which I didn't write down fast enough, was the state aid, which is another example of really the energy receipts tax that we don't get because they use contra, I know the whole issue, of $6 million in this budget. The number, I believe you said, if we were getting the share that we should be receiving without the so-called skim, would have been $11 million.
Yeah, a little bit over 11 million.
So with that said, that's the difference of a 2.88% increase to potentially, if we receive what we should be receiving, and all municipalities should be receiving, we would probably see under the same circumstances an 8% decrease. And based on the fact that $1 million is just about 2%. So fair estimation that the energy receipts tax, which I and other members of the committee have railed against in the past, is the difference of about 10%, or almost 11% swing on this budget.
Yes.
One other question, comment. Being that this will become a public document, and I'm sure it'll be on the website, just a clarification in your chart where you show 2013-14 and the changes, you have it where it's per month. I think we were trying to get to the $4.56 per month, but we also have the other two that are showing like it's a per year charge, per years, not per month. So just want to change that.
Okay.
When you fix that, because it looks like that's $154 a month that was increased in 2013 and 14, which is incorrect. That's just one thing. And then just from a tax rate percentage, just to confirm, it's about 1.4 cents, right? The difference based on these numbers from last year, about a penny, 0.4.
Right.
Okay.
As it is estimated.
As you estimate this budget today. And just to also make sure my numbers are correct, X the overages in snow from the 13 or so incidents, which like to happen on Saturdays in Middletown. We would be potentially, all things making no other changes, looking at it, under 1%, 0.7.
Yes.
Pretty straightforward.
Anybody else?
I think I just have more of a comment than a question. And correct me if I'm wrong, one of the big drivers are the health insurance costs, correct?
Yes.
But compared to the state plan, which we did an analysis of, we would have been we're actually $700,000 less expensive being self-insured than we would be as part of the state plan.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out because you hear folks sometimes come up and say, "Gee, is there something you can do about the healthcare costs? Maybe go with the state," and it's always good to point that out because I think people are under the false impression that the state is some sort of panacea when it's really not.
We just for the record, we have this analyzed every year by our insurance brokers, and we have them analyze the costs to go to a fully insured health insurance plan versus going to the state health benefits plan versus our self-insured, and it's never even close. I mean, no other options. You're generally within $1 million a year of what we pay being self-insured. And I'd also point out the increase that's shown for health insurance, which was $550,000, which is a lot of money, a big increase, and no one likes that. It's a 6% increase. Single-digit increases in health insurance are almost unheard of these days. So that's still really, really good. Even though it's $500,000 more in the health insurance world, that's an amazingly low increase percentage-wise.
Thank you. That's all. Oh, very good job, Connie. Very
Thank
good.
you.
First time on rookie season, it's great.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
This evening, first on our agenda, we're going to do the introduction of the proposed ordinance. It's ordinance 2014-3106. It's an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limit and to establish a cap bank under NJSA 40A:4-45.14. May I have a motion to introduce this ordinance?
Motion to introduce.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore,
Yes.
Committeeman Massell,
Yes.
Committeeman Sharpenberger,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino,
Yes.
and Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce ordinance 2014-3106, and I have the public hearing and final consideration at the workshop of April 7th, 2014. Next on the agenda, we will do a consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt Resolution 14-106, 14-107, and 14-108. The public hearing on the budgets are scheduled for April 21st, 2014.
Second?
Committeeman Fiore,
Yes.
Committeeman Massell,
Yes.
Committeeman Sharpenberger,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino,
Yes.
and Mayor Murray.
Yes.
I guess we have comments before. Yes, address.
Committeeman Fiore, do you have any comments this evening?
Yes, you know what, no, actually, I'll make them in about whatever time my next township committee conference are, so I don't have to be here twice. Thank you, Mayor.
Committeeman Massell,
I'll hold off on my comments until later.
Dr. Sharpenberger,
I'll forego mine until later, thanks.
Deputy Mayor,
Same there, thank you.
and the same thing for me.
At this time, may I have a motion to adjourn this special meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore,
Yes.
Committeeman Massell,
Yes.
Committeeman Sharpenberger,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino,
Yes.
and Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn special meeting.
Take a 5-minute break.